Yes, please, can everyone be seated? Good evening. Welcome to the March 11th agenda special meeting for the Violin Board of Education budget meeting. Roll call, please. Mr. Merkley.
Ms. Acosta.
Here.
Mrs. Codispati.
Here.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Here.
Mr. Holmes.
Here.
Mr. Sobrana.
Present.
Mr. Silva.
Here.
Ms. Spinelli.
Here.
Mr. Ulrich.
Present.
Mr. English.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. In compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law, commonly referred to as the Sunshine Law, the Violin Board of Education has caused notice and posting of this meeting to be sent to the following: announcing time and place thereof, agenda, etc. The Daily Journal, the Press of Atlantic City, the Grapevine, the Clerk for the City of Violin, and the Administrative Office Public Bulletin Board. At this time, could I ask that everyone please rise for the flag salute? This is so old, it doesn't have clean bottom. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United
States of America. Mr. Merkley, we have a resolution for executive session this evening.
No, we do not.
Thank you. At this time, do we have any public comment on agenda items? Please limit your comments to 5 minutes and state your name when you come to the podium, please.
I did receive two specifically for budget. The first one would be Miss Vicki Miller.
It's about budget and security. So can I talk on both?
Sure, it's budget meeting. You can talk.
Okay. I think the most important things is security in our schools and the education of our children. Tonight I want to talk about two really important topics: basic skills and school security. I always have said you can never have enough security in our schools. The plan to have armed guards in addition to our full-time and part-time security staff is necessary one. I remember where I was when Columbine happened in 1999 and Sandy Hook in 2012, and the dozens of other shootings that have happened since. Don't say it can't happen here. It could. I hope it never does. But let's think ahead. The job of our school board is first and foremost keeping our kids safe. If the school shootings were to happen, God forbid, the board should be able to say to you, we've exhausted everything, all our options to keep our students safe. I support armed guards in our schools. I also want the board to remember special education when you vote on the budget. Our basic skill program was reduced a lot last year because of the budget shortfall. Well, it's another year, and we're facing another shortfall. But what do we do about our kids who need their basic skills? These kids aren't going away, and they're getting larger. We need to help our children who need extra help in the classroom. Maybe we can arrange tutoring program for the AMSA kids to help students at other schools who need extra help with our homework. I worked in this district for 15 years. I worked in special education the whole time. And these kids are smart and capable, but sometimes they just need that extra help. With the reduced basic skills being offered, a lot of our students are not getting the help that they are needed. I just hope the board has a plan to bring back basic skills to our schools. What I'm talking about tonight are the two biggest jobs of the school board, safety and education. I know the board and Dr. Gruccio will make the right choice. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Next, we have Jeff Martine.
Good evening, everyone. I really wanted to start off reading this long speech that I had written about what I wanted to talk about tonight, but I think seeing the size of tonight, I think it'd be best just to talk from the heart. So, as most of you know, I'm a substitute teacher. I've been in the district for about 3 years doing that. I've been in just about every kind of classroom you can imagine. I feel like I have a good understanding of who our children are and who's teaching them. One of the observations that I've made since last budget has been the effect of the reduction of basic skills. And I think it's a big problem that should be addressed and should receive just as much attention as other issues being discussed tonight. I want to tell you about a student I worked with when I was subbing in 5th grade. The student was performing well below grade level. She was at the 5th grade. She had no idea how to divide or to even count by fives. This is obviously very frustrating. Thank God that there are other professionals in the classroom so I could dedicate my time trying to catch her up, teach her division, because there was no basic skills teacher to pull her out and set her aside and say, look, this is how you divide. It's a problem that our interventions are all coming from the classroom teacher at 4th, 5th, and onward. Early intervention is great. Early intervention is necessary. K1, 2, and 3, awesome, great. But we could do more, and we should do more. Our students deserve more. And I also want to talk about priorities. Priorities are especially regarding the budget. Because it's frustrating when, looking at some data that was shown to the public today, that at AMSA, at Johnstone, the student-to-teacher ratio is 9-to-1, but for our district, it's 14-to-1. At AMSA, we have a population of 30% of our students are economically disadvantaged, over a quarter, that's substantial. But for the district, as most of you know, is 80%. So I do want to talk about priorities. We need to focus just as much, if not more, on our students who are struggling as our students who strive. Our students in AMSA, the program is phenomenal. We need curriculum for these students who need the help, all the help they can get. They need challenges, and that's awesome, that's great. But we don't need to be segregating them and placing them at a school that can fit. And I worked at Johnson a few years ago. I can tell you, if it's 650, maybe 700, how many students are there now? I just want to talk about priorities, because students like the one I described before, she's slipping through the cracks. We're losing her. She's going to go to middle school next year and perhaps not know how to divide. Maybe she'll learn how to count by fives. Maybe. But these issues should not fall to the classroom teacher alone. It is a big task. So, I just want you guys to keep special education on your minds, keep basic skills on your minds, especially in regards to where our priorities lie. Because I know when I was a student in Violin Public Schools and I loved it, every day I cherished, and I still do. I come back every time I can sub. I always wanted to make sure that my classmates were receiving as equal playing field as I was. And I'm seeing that starting to shift a little bit in the favor of those who are performing above level compared to those who are performing below. So my heart is always with Vineland, and there might be people who say I always try to focus on the negative, or I try to show problems without showing solutions, but that's not the case. I love my hometown, I love the students here, and I really want to see them perform to their fullest potential, whether they're needing basic skills, whether they're needing IEPs or 504s, or if they're needing a challenging curriculum at AMSA. So I appreciate you hearing me out, and I know you guys will do what's best for the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martine. Do we have anyone else this evening, Mr. Merkley?
No, we do not.
Thank you. At this time, Dr. Gruccio, we're going to have our special presentation by School Business Administrator, Mr. Gene Merkley, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to all the public here for the presentation. This is the 2020-2021 proposed school budget for Violin Public Schools. It should be noted that the board and the administration has a large task on their hands when they begin to create the budget for the school district. The Violin is the 17th largest school district in the state of New Jersey. The total budget approaches almost $200 million. The budgeting process, an overview of the slide presentation tonight that you're going to see is what the process looks like, historical summaries of enrollment and revenues and appropriations. You'll see proposed revenues, proposed appropriations, proposed tax levy, and then you'll see some budget highlights near the end, and I'll try and explain some of them as we go through it. So the process, obviously the process begins very early on in the fall. The board reviews the process, the proposals, and the initiatives. Most of this happens through the individual board committees. Just about every single committee that the board has, whether it be ad hoc or standing, has some role in budget because they all have a different task that they're working through for the school district. Obviously, finance plays a major role in the development of the budget because they set the actual framework of it, but each of the committees also contribute and work through the process. As you can imagine, administrative budget meetings happen between the senior administrative departments, and we also involve the principals, supervisors, and department heads individually going out to each school, meeting with principals, and individually bringing in department heads to go over what their budgets were this year and what they're going to need for next year. This is a slide of enrollment. It shows a 5-year snapshot. It looks like there's a large slide in here, but really the difference is about 80 pupils. And to note, the left-hand side is the current year. So if you look at the last 3 years, enrollment's actually been increasing, and in the last 3 years, our enrollment actually has grown by 50 students. So that initial year in 15-16, I believe that drain was the opening of the vocational school, and the charter school opened up. So you'll see the enrollment dip down, and then now you'll see that the enrollment is climbing back up, and Violin is stabilizing and actually increasing enrollment. Just for all the people who can't see it, the current enrollment from 1920 is 10,279. These are historical trends. It shows the tax levy over a 3-year period. When you look at the top and you see the 2021, it says B, 1920 says B, and then you see 1819 says A. The A is actual, which means it's the audited numbers. The B is the year we're in right now. They're budgetary figures. We're working through that current budget. and the 2021 is the budget being proposed today. You'll see a tax levy of $25,691,704. Overall, you'll see the budget is actually up on the general fund, but when you actually see the resolution that we're voting on tonight, it's pretty consistent with the current year. You'll notice state aid is up. Violin did get an increase in state aid this year. Revenues by type. I mean, this is a chart that basically mimics the last slide you saw. The blue, for the people who can't see it, the blue is state aid. So the majority of the funding for Violin comes from state aid. The red is the tax levy. And then there's a few other ones in there. There's use of fund balance, which is green. And then you'll see other general fund revenues and Medicaid numbers. These are appropriation trends. Again, the same thing carries through for 3 years. The good thing to note on this slide is the money's going into programming. You'll notice that, in the next slide, you're going to see an actual pie graph of this, but regular programmings are up, special education programs are up. The money from the budget is actually going into the classrooms. You'll also see security and grounds is up significantly. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the slides. But overall, you can see the budget is up from the current year. This presentation will be posted on the website probably tomorrow, so you can look at it in a little bit more detail. This is a pie graph of the exact same figures that you just saw. Just to note, everything from basically, I want to say the red on the left-hand side all the way through the gray basically is related to education, from transportation to employee benefits to regular programs to special education down to support services. So the majority of that pie graph is eaten up on educating students. These are select appropriations. As you can see, on the left-hand side is regular programming. It just gives you a 3-year snapshot of what it has looked like. And much like I said earlier, the left-hand side shows regular and special ed programs, and they're going up, which means we're actually spending money in the classroom. Tax comparisons. This shows a 6-year snapshot. To note, the assessed valuations in Violin are actually down about $6 million. The average home is up. The average home assessment is $159,721. Again, you see the tax levy at $25,691,704. The school district rate being proposed is 0.6704. That's an actual increase this year for 2.7 cents. The average homeowner would see a $42.65 increase for the average homeowner with the assessed value of $159,721. A little bit of information for everyone. The local fair share, this comes directly from the state. They believe that Violin should be taxing our residents at $64 million. We're actually taxing at 25, so the difference is $39 million. The local fair share was frozen for a number of years. I want to say a good decade, Violin wasn't even permitted to raise taxes. So really, that's a number that was unachievable, for at least, over a decade. I didn't think we started to raise taxes probably until 2013 or somewhere around that time frame. Some budget highlights on the operational end. Obviously not everything is listed here, but playground aids, cafeteria aids are in the budget. Special education support costs are up. Curriculum initiatives are up, and you're going to see a slide near the end that has a little bit of information on that. Last year, facilities had a $3 million hit. They're actually restored a little bit. District communications, the board has made it through an ad hoc committee, an initiative that they want to communicate better with the public, and they are making an initiative to put money behind that. So we can provide better communication. On the capital side of things, there's a lot going on in transportation. I remember when I walked in the door a year ago, half of Violin's routes were contracted to a contractor. They were not Violin buses pulling in the schoolyards. We did take back half of those routes this year. We're taking the other half back next year. This is just a slide just to show how immense the vehicle totals are for Violin. Being the 17th largest school district, we have 283 total vehicles, whether they be vehicles or buses, ranging anywhere from the year 1991 to the current year. Actually, we have buses that are 2021, which seems odd because we're only in 2020. Active school buses are 149, and we have 36 inactive, which are actually on the agenda tonight to be auctioned off. We have 87 active vehicles and 11 inactive vehicles. Next year in this budget, we're going to acquire 28 buses. We're going to acquire 15 vehicles. We're getting rid of 36 and 26. So we're actually going to be down 19 total vehicles. And that's up there for a specific reason, because every time you have a vehicle, you have insurance on that vehicle. And us, we pay anywhere between $1,200 to $1,500 per vehicle. So just do the math on 19 units, and you're somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 just getting rid of vehicles that we don't need. We do have an initiative going on out back. We're consolidating the 3 Violin school bus yards. We have one on West, we have one in Coney, we have one behind Wallace Middle School. The project costs about $2.7 million, but it's going to save about $400,000 a year, so the return on investment is a little over 6 years. There's going to be 140 school bus spots, 317 car parking slots. It does free up additional car parking for Gatone Stadium when it's in use for the various events. And just to elaborate on this just a little bit more, the actual budget of transportation is actually down $500,000. So although we're acquiring 28 buses and we're doing this project, the actual savings from the efficiencies achieved in transportation are actually paying for itself. So transportation is actually giving $500,000 back into the budget. School security, the board has an ad hoc committee, and they've been meeting religiously since the fall, probably even before that, discussing current staffing, current protocols, reviewing what other school districts are doing. And currently on the left-hand side, you'll see that we currently have 29 full-time personnel and 40 part-time personnel, and we also have a number of substitutes. So the current budget in the current year is about $2.2 million. Through these committee meetings, the board is recommending, and through this budget process, that we move into an armed guard type unit. Now, the details of this have not totally been worked out. The framework is in place. 25 of our existing personnel remain. The other 4 will be placed in other positions, so there is no loss of employment. We did meet with all the personnel. They are aware of the situation. We did make it known that no one was losing their job. 44 part-time personnel, 18 armed units. Every school does get an armed unit. Right now, agency placed, because that's the direction we believe we'll be going. The new budget is $2.9 million. You won't really be able to back into that number through the other slides because of the way the budget's crafted. There's some money in health benefits, and then there's some money in security. You would have to pick them all apart to come up to this number. But there's an investment being made, proposed by the board to place armed units. Just so everyone is aware who's viewing this slide, if you look at the bottom in red, no school will have less personnel than they currently have. And actually, the elementary schools actually gain a person. So not only will they have one of our full-time people, which is what they have now, but they'll also have an armed unit. So the elementary schools stand to gain in this scenario. And like I said, the framework is in place. The actual details are not. Once we move through the budget process and start getting into planning those details, we'll work through that. Budget highlights on facilities. Obviously, having so many schools, you know, we try and touch the majority of them when we can. We do rely on the SDA for a lot of the major work, but we do get some things done. Proposed this year's the front entryway replacement at Menny's School. Rossi's getting a gym divider. It's a curtain. It's a mechanical curtain. Durand, there's some classroom HVAC unit replacements. The Wallace Kitchen epoxy floor is peeling up. That's going to be replaced. In VHS South, bathroom partition replacements. VHS North, bathroom upgrades and concrete repairs. But to note up here, Complete Care, we are currently in negotiations with Complete Care. For those of you who know what Complete Care is, it's a medical service provider. We're currently working through the details of having a Complete Care in VHS North manned with a physician. And we planned to make sure that we get all of our kids through that Complete Care, so we at least know that they are being seen by a doctor regularly. That's going to be in the nurses suite at VHS North, which is going to be renovated to house the Complete Care. Landis, which we're in now, the piping goes back to the mid-90s and is failing, so some piping replacements here. District-wide, this has been hashed out through committees, and it's been on the agenda several times. Energy Savings Improvement Plan. It actually just got approved in Trenton by the Board of Public Utilities, and this will be advertised for RFP next week. This actually touches every single building. Every single building will have the lighting replaced to LED lighting, and many other energy improvements occur. This is estimated to be about $15 million worth of renovations achieved through energy savings in buildings. This is a program run by the state of New Jersey, guaranteed, and it's paid for through the energy savings. Budget highlights on programming and curriculum. I mentioned there was significant investment in the program and curriculum. There was too numerous of things to list on here, but I'm just listing a few of the things that I know are initiatives. Critical curriculum resources and student options. I'm not going to read everything here, but standard-based grading, professional development, the focus on linked data to drive instruction and instructional decisions. Continued focus on improving mathematics, language, arts, science instruction and preparation for the NJSLA. Focus on career and technical pathways for construction and agriculture. We've been actively meeting for placement of an agricultural room over at VHS South with a greenhouse. Most of you probably already have seen the land cleared on Brewster. Expand college articulation scope and sequence for progression of students' abilities through K-12 with fine arts. Continued inclusion of health literacy and mental health into the district and the school-based professional development opportunities. Like I said, this will be posted up on the website, so you'll have a chance to read through some of this. That's the framework of the budget and the presentation of the budget. There are no, just to reiterate going through, there are no layoffs or cuts in the budget. We're only adding to the budget. Big change from last year. So I will take any questions if anyone from the board has any questions.
Gene, one question. Regarding the security budget, there's been some confusion in the public. I got some calls that were taken away from teacher positions or guidance counselors. What is our allocated security line item from the state this year?
Well, we do get categorical aid for different items, and security is one of them. We actually received $3.3 million in security aid, and we're actually going in that direction to spend it all on security. It's been spent into the general fund budget in prior years. So if you were to note that slide that was up there, about 2.9 million, and hopefully next year we actually get the entire amount that we get from the state spent on security.
Thank you.
Anything else? Now, I know the board has worked tirelessly over the last few months, and they probably know most of these numbers in and out. So there probably isn't a whole lot of questions from the board. But if there's something I missed that you want me to go back and highlight, I'll be glad to discuss some of that.
Mr. Merkley, on behalf of the board, first, we would like to thank you and your staff, because I know putting a PowerPoint together is so much more than just 18 pages. So I'd like to thank you and your staff for the time that was put in there. Just a quick sidebar, because last year I was back on the board my first year back, and you were pretty much just getting into the... Everybody hear me? All righty. With reference towards basic skills, okay, the board is still very concerned with some type of alternatives. If the thought process of, I know you and I spoke about what Bridgeton's currently doing, bringing in retired staff in some fashion. When I read across America last week at a couple of schools, you do talk to your fellow teachers, and they'll show you that some of our students, not to bring up a negative, but if they're third grade students and they're reading on a first grade level, that is not acceptable, and we continue to want to address that at the board level, and we did cut that area because we're under the understanding that the way it currently was being put out there, it wasn't really as effective as it could be. I know that Dr. Gruccio, Mr. Fry, they're putting together some programs now for the first and the second grade, but when it comes to funding like that, in years past we've had discussion about the attrition type money. You build that in the budget, correct? Something like that?
Yeah, that was actually built into the budget.
Okay. And, I mean, it's just, I'm speaking on behalf of my fellow board members here. If there is such a thing called a reverse priority list, which I know it's hard to do that, but that's still a focus area that we do want to continue to stay focused on, because I know we have the, Dr. Gruccio, correct, what do we have now for first grade? What are you calling that?
We have a transitional.
Transitional. Transitional first, then we want to do the transitional second, correct? But still, I'd really like to try and really focus. I don't like to, I look at the district K to 12, okay? We have preschool as well, but if we can really focus on that basic skills level at that foundation area, K to 5, I think if we can come up with some funding, maybe not in that full-time realm, but kind of like Bridgeton is doing with their retired teacher coming in on maybe a 5-hour type basis, that something is better than nothing. So I just kind of plead back to you as we get some of the attrition and things like that, if there is funding like that available, that we really try and focus. And I'm just speaking on behalf of my fellow board members here. We continue to we've been doing our due diligence. We've raised taxes for, since 2013 to try and get fair. It's, we're not going to be able to do the 8 and the 12% like they would expect us to do. But realistically, when I look at some of our neighboring schools like Bridgeton, pretty much the same as us, get a number of $8 million from the state, they are able to put all the tools in place. So we look at CC Tech, they got about 2.9. That's an extra $3 million for a building that we pay tuition for. Can we maybe petition them for a reduction in some type of tuition? Because every little bit's going to help us, and if we could try and build a pot to help that basic skills, I'm just asking that we do try and focus on that. And I know that this discussion has been the way it was really wasn't working, who was getting pulled out because of substitute issues. But as a board, we are focused on that. And it's important to let the public know and our teachers and principals know that we didn't forget about it or give up on it. It's just something that it's a work in progress trying to bring something new in. but my feeling is to have a first and second grade program transitional is still not targeting the big number that truly are this type of basic skills number. So basically what I'm asking you is, man, if we get any kind of money, I would love to see it go, and just not me, but my fellow board members, correct? I mean, we're united on this front with that because we have heard the cry from the staff and our principals. So I'm planting the seed again as I did last year, so, you know.
Was there a question in there?
No.
Yeah. The question is,
The question is, where do we plant the money tree? Because I didn't find it yet.
yes, I would hope that maybe we can have a little conversation with CC Tech, 'cause, again, a little bit, and I don't know what these part-time teachers cost, but it's a retired teacher without a benefit package.
Yeah, you're speaking of, I think Bridgeton uses that model where they take retired teachers, I think they're 4/7 or something like that, and they bring them in and use them for a specific purpose. No benefits because they're retired. I think that's what you're talking about. You're actually making a plea for additional personnel to help the most needy student, which I hear you, and that's a topic of many discussions at the administrative level and specifically the principals. Anytime we have a principal meeting, that's probably number one on their agenda. You'll notice that we didn't discuss on those slides any hirings. There are hirings on the bus driver side of things. Only because we non-renewed $2.9 million worth of contracts with providers, and we're doing it in-house, and we're using all the savings of the $2.9 million to do transportation. I have tried to stay away from leading everyone down the road of expanding the budget without the reoccurring revenue. The public should know that every year salaries go up $2.5 million. This year we happen to have a negative on our health benefits. So that's unheard of. Normally health benefits are going up, 5%, 7%. We actually got a 1% decrease in health benefits, which that helps us. When the benefit package is, approaching $40 million, that's huge. So $2.5 million in salary increases, and the proposed budget has a 4% tax increase, which is 2.7 cents. That's $988,000. So the board is raising taxes 4%, and it's still $1.5 million short just to cover the salaries. And if you add salaries to it, you're just adding to it. So when we sell property like Leuchter, Coney, that actually creates a problem on the business side of things, because we fictitiously put in $1 million worth of revenue, and then the next year you don't have the $1 million. So everyone needs to understand that you don't want to build the budget with operational costs that you need to replace every single year. If you have found money, you spend it on one-time things that next year you don't care if you don't have the money or not. But as soon as you start adding personnel, basically every senior teacher is $80,000 to $100,000 between their salary and their benefits. Just put 5 in. That's a $500,000. If you don't have a $500,000 in reoccurring revenue, we'll be sitting here talking about who we're cutting next year. We didn't add anybody this year, so hopefully next year we're not sitting here talking about cutting anybody. And I don't want the board to go down that road of adding people without the revenue to support it. So I have, in the meetings, have always said, if we can get away with, if there's another way to do it, let's do it a different way. Now, you mentioned first and second grade. Obviously, I'm not the academic here. I'm on the finance side. I believe there's a push to put additional support help in the first and second grade to try and catch the students before they become into a basic skills type environment. I think that's the initial push right now. That's a great idea that you mentioned 4/7 teachers. I mean, you could probably get 3 of them for every full-time teacher. I mean, I don't know how that works on the academic side, because that's not what I do. There's other individuals that would give you their opinion on that, but I hear you. It's just I don't want I don't want you all to be in a position next year where you're cutting people because we fictitiously added them because we didn't have the revenue to support it. And that's kind of my role, is to make sure that that doesn't happen. That was horrible last year. It was horrible to sit up there for all of you and have that cut and let go all those people. And I don't want that to happen again for you, and I don't want it to happen for Violin. So if we can find a way to do it with reoccurring revenue, then yes, we need to make that happen. Like we did get additional state aid. That's reoccurring revenue. Additional state aid is new money. It's reoccurring every year. And we're electing to spend it on things that are initiatives of the board, like security, which is important. It's important. Did we spend it all on security? No, we did not. So that's my answer to your question, I guess.
I guess my main point was, I mean, if indeed we see something come our way, I believe something is better than nothing, meaning it might not be a full-time teacher with a benefit package, but it could be something in that 5-hour role on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So, I mean, it seems to be working in Bridgeton, but it's also easy because they get the type of funding, which is bizarre.
That's just unheard of, $8.5 million for
It's-
Bridgeton. I mean, $8.5 million for Violin would be like we hit the lottery.
That's for sure. And just realistically, just to follow up on you, although we started this process we thought we were going to be in that $8 million type shortfall, we have rolled out a budget that's balanced with a 4% tax increase and no loss of jobs. When you think where we were last year in a $14 million type hole, and it pained everyone that we had to go through the process of losing people that had been district employees for years. I do want to thank your staff, because I know it wasn't easy as we sat in the meetings together going round and round. So thank you. And do my fellow board members have any other comments? I mean, yes.
For the audience to know, we were talking about Bridgeton getting $8 million over, CC Tech getting almost $3 million, and us getting a little over $1 million. We can clarify that with, we have almost 11,000 students getting $1.2 million. Bridgeton gets $8.8 million for, 6,000 students, and CC Tech received $3 million. Now, if you break that down per student, it's $109 for Violin students per student, right? And then it would be approximately $2,200 for Bridgeton, and CC Tech is almost $3,300. So that, I just want the audience to understand that those schools are getting that amount of money per student. Plus, we pay tuition to go to CC Tech.
Yeah, I mean, if you look statewide, there were a lot of losers. A lot of losers. Jersey City, I think, lost $55 million. It was 1/6 of their budget. I couldn't even imagine what would happen if we lost 1/6 of our aid. Toms River lost $5.5 million. Brick lost $4.5 million. Washington Township lost $1.4 million. Yes, we're naming districts that gained money specifically. I mean, Bridgeton, the big winner there. I think now I think they only have about 4,500 or 5,000 students, and they get roughly about $100 million in state aid. We're more than double them, but there's no rhyme or reason. If you try and figure out what the formula is, you'll never figure it out. We belong to a lobby group for school districts in aid. There's about 100 districts out of the 500 or so districts in the state, and the majority of them all lost money. So we kind of stay silent because we got 1.2, but they all lost money. But I see the feeds coming in we get emails. We probably get 30 emails a day of them providing testimony up in Trenton to try and find a rhyme or reason as to why districts get money and why districts lose money. I mean, they have a funding formula, but they don't follow it. You're supposed to get so much money per student. They use elementary as the base, as like a 1 factor. If you're in middle, it's like a 1.6 factor. If you're in high school, it's like 1.12. And then vocational is even on top of that. And special education, there's a factor. There's a factor for security, for transportation. I mean, our transportation budget, I think our categorical aid is about $5.5 million for transportation. But our budget's 12. it just doesn't make sense. There's no rhyme or reason to it, and if you try and find out from the state, the answer is really there's only so much pie, and they just divvy it up every year.
Thank you. I just kind of wanted to.
Mr. Sobrano.
What happened to the Education Law Center?
They're still there. We do get emails from them.
They-
They run the formulas based on what it's supposed to be. And actually, when I look at ours, the number that is run is what we're getting.
So now we're being told we didn't tax enough, and for 10 years we were told we couldn't.
They will never make that up.
Mr. Sobrano, I think it would be a good idea, when you talk about the Educational Law Center, it would be a great conversation for them to explain to us why Bridgeton got $8 million, CC Tech got $3 million. Poor Millville, they got, what, $360,000? They didn't get much at all, and then we're somewhere in the middle. I mean, it might be time for, when I see a full house like this, I'd love to have everybody write a letter. I mean, the power of numbers is incredible, and, you know, we're all in this together, so I would love to see some more support like this, but finish, I'm sorry.
And I remember sitting on the other side of this table for years when we were told the Supreme Court said that we weren't getting enough money. And it would go on forever. We would always have more money because we had students with great needs. Well, that didn't go on, did it? And now the equity is still not there. And I can't imagine how it ever will be, because the funding formula for equity in this state is so elusive that it can never happen. It's all a matter of politics, let's face it.
It became politics over student achievement, and that's what's painful.
And safety and every other thing. That wasn't a question, but that was just a statement.
There is, I mean, when I build this budget, I'm 2 budgets ahead. I'm already in next year. I'm trying to make sure next year there are no cuts to personnel in the budget. And I can probably sit up here and probably tell you that it's going to be very close. I believe as long as we continue and at least get stable funding from the state, and we continue to do our role as 4% tax increases, it's going to definitely be a little bit more difficult next year, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be pretty stable for next year. The year after, I'm not as convinced. Depends a lot of things what healthcare ends up being. I believe this year we're going into is the last year of our VEA contract, so I believe we'll begin negotiating again with VEA this year for another 3-year settlement, so you never know what that's going to yield. But, you know, as I'm building this budget, I'm thinking about the next 2 years, because what we do this year, I don't want it to affect next year and the year after. And that's how it happens. You can't make the mistake in any one year because it affects 2 years down the road. So I believe the budget that was created this year and is proposed really should not affect us next year as long as everything stays stable. We should be able to weather the storm and not have layoffs next year, because I don't want you all to be in a position, and I don't want people who are working hard in our schools to always have that cloud over their head that are they going to have a job next year. So, you know, we actively work the problem and make sure that that doesn't happen.
Mr. Merkley, could you explain the local fair share? Because when we talk about what we're getting and what the local fair share should be, it's like $44 million that we should contribute as the community of Violin, which we don't. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, the local fair share came out of the 2008 funding formula when Lucille Davey was the commissioner of education, and I believe it was John Corzine was governor. That's where that came from. What they did was they created a northern region, a central region, and a southern region, and then they established a local fair share based on the wealth of the region. So based on the wealth of the region, they determined what your local fair share was and what your taxing ability was to be. Violin has about 3.8, and there was a slide up there, 3.8 billion in ratables. So based on 3.8 billion in ratables on property taxes, they melded that with income from the tax returns, and this goes all the way back to 2008, and you can find it. I probably have my hands on it somewhere. And they came up with the ability for the community to pay. And that's where that number came from. But for Violin, being a former abbot, they did not let you tax. And then all of a sudden they said you could tax, but it was too late. There's no way you would ever make that up.
Thank you. It's sometimes brought up, and I think I agree with Scott that we can never do the 10 and 12%.
Do I have anything else from any board members? Mr. Merkley, again, thank you to you and your staff.
Thank you.
At this time, Dr. Gruccio, recommendations by our superintendent.
I would like to recommend discussion of 3 items listed under 7. Approval of the 2020-21 school district preliminary budget for submission to the State of New Jersey Department of Ed, with a total budget of $196,275,411 and a local tax levy, $25,691,704. B is approval of the local tax levy in the amount of $25,691,704. And C is the approval of the maximum travel amount in accordance with NJAC 6A:23A-7.3 for the 2020-21 school district budget in the amount of $42,528.50. The travel amount spent to date in the 2019-20 school year budget is $5,027.99. I recommend discussion on A through C.
Do you have any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Sure.
Just to clarify, is our vote tonight just on those specific items? It's not, we're not voting line by line that we're approving all the
We're voting on the
itemization.
total
Just the total.
number, correct.
The total number. Okay, thank you.
As always, it's that fluid document, as we discussed. It's a lot tighter than it's been in years past, so, but pretty much you're voting on the number, yes. Any other questions or comments?
Do them all together.
I'd like to recommend approval of items A through C.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta.
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti.
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli.
I'm going to abstain from the facilities, and I'm going to vote no for B for the tax levy.
Can you clarify the first thing? I understand the tax levy. What's the other one?
I have to abstain from the facilities complete care.
You're abstaining on the entire vote of the budget. It's one lump sum budget. Yeah, but you're not voting specifically. Complete care is not in the budget right now. That'll come later. It's a dollar amount.
Okay, just want to clarify.
Okay.
So yes for facilities
Okay.
then.
Mr. Ulrich.
Yes.
Mr. English.
Yes. Thank you. At this time, we have the opportunity for anyone from the public to address the board. Please state your name, and you have 5 minutes to speak, please.
Good evening. My name is Luz Vasquez Guzman. I am a parent of a freshman in Violin High School. I also raised her 3 siblings in the Violin Public School District. So just to make a comment on the budget, Violin students do need more money than a little over $100 in order to be effective with education. That's just based on even what I heard tonight. So I appreciate the presentation. But I am here tonight. I had the privilege of speaking here at the board right before this last election concerning the LGBTQ curriculum that is set to roll out in the 2020 school year. I voiced my concerns then, and I will voice my concerns again here tonight concerning this curriculum that I do not see on the agenda, yet I will comment on tonight. The right to a public school education is a constitutional right. Children should be able to learn academics in an environment that focuses on mastering the skills necessary in order to advance to the next level. My question to you tonight, not that you have to answer, is when does sexuality become a part of math, science, and some parts of other subjects? Do we not find it outrageous that we would make efforts to alter pronouns in English class, reteaching what our children are referring to, change math word problems, and mention the sexuality of scientists during science class? Our governor has passed this law completely disregarding the rights of parents to discuss matters of sexuality with their children through whatever belief system they have. I am aware that this part is beyond your control. However, according to the Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Education, Dr. Ripollet, does say that the school boards are completely in control of the curriculum. The Garden State Equality, also referred to as the GSE, is strictly an LGBTQ advocacy organization, also can be viewed and researched on their website. This should not be the curriculum that the Violin chooses to utilize and to abide by this mandate. Because of this controversial issue, and many are here tonight opposing this, the Violin School District should do the minimum in order to remain in compliance, but always mindful of what this is causing families here in this town. This school board should also relay our concerns as a school board representing us to the New Jersey Department of Education. I have attempted to contact Nate Fry to get an answer as to what curriculum they are using. I've yet to be able to have a conversation with them. But even so, I'm just voicing my opinion as to the use of the GSE. I am opposed to that, and I'm just not sure if what the intent is of this Violin School District to develop their own, or will they be using the Garden State Equality curriculum? We want to know. Bottom line, it's wrong. I oppose it, and as a parent, I will continue to be a presence here in this board with the same issue until this is no longer an issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please state your name.
Hello, my name is James Hollander, and I am a Violin resident who lives at 955 Timberbrook Drive. I am the father of 2 children, one in middle school and one in elementary school. I am a Christian man who believes in the Word of God and all of its contents, including what it says about sexual morality. I say this not to preach to you, but to have you understand my religious beliefs. I also do not judge anyone who does not share my beliefs. Actually, I am taught to teach my children to love, accept, embrace anyone, no matter their race, creed, or sexual orientation. However, I should retain the right to teach my children about sexual morality and religious principles through a biblical perspective. Our founding fathers wrote the Constitution and the Bill of Rights to provide us a protection against government that could potentially take our liberties. The First Amendment states, Congress shall not make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. It is our religious exercise to follow the Bible and raise our kids in that discipline. We as parents reserve the parental right to teach our children issues concerning religion and or sexual morality. without a government entity such as the public schools intervening in the way we raise them. Bottom line is, it's our constitutional right. There is a way to educate our children without breaching our religious principles. There is a way to educate our children without pushing on them a political agenda. May I also add that sexual preference has absolutely nothing to do with intellectual development. It is my job as a parent to address that with them personally, not the public schools. Therefore, I plead with you not to use the GSE curriculum, but use the most basic curriculum as possible. The public schools are paid by tax dollars to educate, not to parent. The city of Violin has a very large evangelical community who share these similar beliefs, not to mention other religions such as Jewish and Muslim faiths that are also opposed to this curriculum set before us. As elected officials, you have an obligation to listen to those who put you in that position. As taxpayers, parents, and most of all Americans, we have the say through our religious liberty in the First Amendment and also in the New Jersey State Constitution, Article 1, on how our kids are taught. I should not have to take the financial burden of private school as a taxpayer because New Jersey decided how I should raise my children. Please consider the alternative to this curriculum to preserve our parental rights and to restore our religious freedom. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Hollander. Yes, please state your name and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Hollander. I have been a resident of the city of Violin for 15 years. I am a mother of 2 girls, ages 11 and 12, who attend the Violin public schools. I love my city, and I take pride in where I live, and have been an active volunteer in my community for the past 15 years. I am here today in extreme concern with the LGBTQ curriculum that is being presented and currently implemented in the academics. I believe the LGBTQ community should have rights, and I commend this community for making a voice for themselves. But my rights and religious beliefs are being infringed upon due to the curriculum being enforced upon my children. We are asking that you please do not implement the GSE curriculum that has not even been approved by the Department of Education. We respectfully ask you, as the board members, to take a careful and minimal approach to the curriculum. Now, parents, ask your children what the schools are teaching them. And be aware, because on Monday, my daughter, who is in 5th grade, brought to my attention an assignment she was given on the Newsela site. She told me she had to read an article to prepare for questions the next day. The article was about a book written by Charlotte Pence, our vice president's daughter. The title of the book is A Day in the Life of the Vice President. The main character in the book is Marlin, the vice president's real-life pet bunny. The bunny follows the vice president around, learning about the good deeds and all the hard work it takes to be a leader for our country. At the end of the article, it says a competing book. It's the parody book that is also introduced in this article. This version is created by John Oliver. In his book, it portrays the boy bunny like in other boy bunnies. My daughter came to me and showed me this, okay? 5th grader. It also makes my daughter aware that the vice president does not support the gay rights, but John Oliver's book, The Prophets There, will support the gay rights. Tell me, why does a 5th grader need to know this? It transitions the positive message about our vice president with the bunny to a negative message by referring to the fact that the vice president does not support gay rights and taking an innocent thought of a bunny in a story to a boy bunny who likes other boy bunnies. Really? Are you kidding me? Do we not see the bias in this lesson? Now, let's move on to my daughter, her first year in 6th grade. In health class, she was shown a video of 2 girls holding hands and 2 boys holding hands, being informed that it is okay to be homosexual or bisexual. I did not give the school the right to teach my daughter about sexual preferences. This has no place in a young child's education. I am angered by what is being indoctrinated into our children in the public school system. And I reserve the exclusive right with my husband to have those type of conversations with my daughters. And as Christian parents, to be the ones who present sexuality through the biblical perspective. Once again, I believe the LGBTQ community should have the rights and a voice to be heard. But I ask you also to hear our voice as parents here tonight, to not choose the GSE curriculum, but the most basic curriculum necessary. Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me this time to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Hollander.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Wells Huggins. I'm a citizen of Violin, New Jersey. I've had 3 children that I've raised in the Violin School District, and I currently have a grandson who attends our wonderful schools. I'm speaking on behalf of my concern when it comes to the armed presence that we are currently looking at in our school system. I stated before in an open public meeting that we had, and we thought that there was going to be some public conversation and actual feedback between the board and the rest of us regarding the fact that data does not support the notion of increased safety with a highly militarized or gun-laden environment in our schools. Data does not denote, it does denote, however, that minority children are harmed disproportionately when such a presence exists. Mark Schindler, director of the Justice Policy Institute, said that the biggest thing that we can do here in our county, when I spoke to him 2 days ago, was to think about, understand, and be a part of the Dignity in Schools campaign, which states that we should actually be a part of the Counselors Not Cops movement in our area. Vicariously forced trauma will be a natural and expected result of the presence of an armed presence in our schools. Has anyone considered the emotional safety of our children, or were we more concerned with what looks safe as opposed to what actually is? When you say the framework is in place for armed presence in our schools, who did you talk to prior to making this framework? Something to think about, because I don't know if any of you had any conversation or part in that, but I know that most of us did not. And what made this a priority over the sensible and much less traumatic stance or consideration of counselors in schools and making sure that our young people are heard in that process as well? One of the things that we can do is to make sure that meetings like this are not historically what they always have been, the meeting after the meeting, the pomp and circumstance, because the decision has already probably been made. If you're really going to listen to the people, then take the information that you are receiving from us tonight and really reconsider, and then have an exchange with us so that we can make sure that our voices are heard for our children. Because right now what you are doing, or what it appears that you're doing, is making a show just for yourselves.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Justine Lopez. I'm a resident here at Violin. I used to go to VHS, and I went to the Violin School District all my life. I'm here today because I am concerned about this budgeting and allowing security guards into our security. at our school district. I would like to say that law enforcement embedded in school erodes school climate. School resources and officers increase suspension, school-based arrest, and court referrals. School hardening measures like greater police presence in school causes staff, students, and families to feel less welcome and are not conducive in learning. School reliance on law enforcement for discipline reduces the interactions between student and supportive staff, such as guidance counselors. I think it's important for you guys to consider the safety of our school populations. Students do not deserve to be fearful of going to school, and having an armed guard, 18 armed guards in our school district does pose a threat to our student safety. So please consider this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Perry Barcy. I live at 1140 New Pear Street in the city of Vineland. On the other hand, I really believe that it is incumbent upon you to seriously consider the inclusion of armed security in the schools. There's room, I believe, for the current system that we have now, but it's a shame we have to have this conversation in this day and age, but it has to be said. There's a lot of districts around the country that would have wished that they had thought about this and acted on this before tragedies took place. I had the opportunity, I've heard CC Tech brought up a number of times here, not with a lot of smiles. However, having visited that facility and spent a little bit of time there and spoken to administrators and folks over there, one thing that stood out to me was the tremendous setup for security that they do have there. I think it's top notch. I think it's first class. I would like to see that in every one of the Vineland public schools to protect the youngsters. The hundreds of youngsters we have here, the over 10,000 apparently we have in our district, what I heard this evening in the presentation. What could be more important than that? I would like to think it would not engender fear by having armed security there. There's always, differences of opinions on that sort of thing. However, if we could avert one tragedy, one death, I think it's worth the effort and certainly to look into it. I would also add that I really am very envious of what they're doing at CC Tech when it comes to security. I think they have their plan in place that so far has worked great, and it just seems that the students, the administrators, the support staff, everyone involved, is in a much more secure place, making it more conducive for learning and for enjoying the process. I would love to see that sort of system in Vineland. I think it would behoove you to maybe talk to the folks that are involved at CC Tech in that sort of a security format. I thought so much of it. I guess about a year ago, I invited them to come and meet with myself and Mayor Anthony Finucci, and we met in his office, laid out what they're doing over there, and I just said, as a private citizen, that I really would like to see an initiative to get behind this for all our schools in the Vineland School District. I believe the mayor agreed. We like the concept. I don't know where it's going or what may happen. I really hope you consider that format and that type of circumstance. I think would be beneficial for all our students, support staff, teachers, administrators. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barcy.
Excuse me.
Good evening,
one moment.
ladies and gentlemen of
I
the board.
apologize. We have students here from one of our schools who are supposed to do the flag salute. They have been here since 5 o'clock, and we're supposed to have another meeting after this. So if you would please indulge us, we would like to have those students come forward because I know that they've been here for a long time, and we'd like them to do the flag salute so that they don't have to remain through this portion.
to the bathroom.
Thank you, students. We have some certificates from Mr. Ulrich.
Thank you to DePolito School, and I'm so sorry that you had to wait this long.
Just give us 1 second.
Yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am. Just let them get their certificates, and then we will resume.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your patience. Right. We're going to continue, and then we're going to start our next meeting. So if there are any other speakers, please come forward at this time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Marilyn Snook, and I would like to speak against the GSE. Having extensively studied same-sex attraction and counseling those with it, I am aware that it is caused by many experiences and hurts in life which need to be dealt with. As a grandmother and a friend of many parents, my concern is that this expanded teaching will put doubt and fear in a girl's mind that they are lesbian when it is not true. When that idea takes hold, it puts fear and hopelessness in a child. Number two, because I believe strongly, and the Bible confirms it, that a child is not born with gender confusion. Teaching to the contrary greatly confuses a person and leaves them without hope. Children should not have to wonder which gender they are. Number three, I wish you could hear some of the stories that I have heard and professionals have heard regarding gender confusion. The regret of a life unfulfilled and bitterness towards God, believing He created them that way. Lastly, I would like to recommend a vote against GSE because of its greater harm to our children, and that instead, in-depth education be presented for the board, teachers, and especially parents. I would be willing to help with that in any way possible. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Snook. You already spoke once this evening. You only have one shot, you can speak at our next meeting.
Now, this is about the gay. I have a granddaughter that's gay, and I
Listen,
don't appreciate what's going on now.
Wow. All right, does anyone else want to approach the board this evening? We have another meeting directly after this if someone would like to address during public comment, okay? This is our budget portion, but I do understand everyone has their voice, and as a board, we heard you this evening. I will ask Ms. Acosta to add this to our curriculum monthly meeting. for a little bit more discussion with Dr. Gruccio and Mr. Fry, and we will see where it goes from there. I also want to remind everyone that, again, if everyone puts the pen to the paper and reaches out to your legislator, it's the numbers that can conquer as well. So instead of just 2 or 3 voices, yes, we are here to speak for you, but I'm not here for the applause or anything like that. I'm here to do what we have to do to provide our students with the best education. And moving forward, we will have a discussion on this. And for the people that have reached out to Mr. Fry, I will have a discussion with Dr. Gruccio, and we'll make sure that everyone receives some type of information with their concerns. Okay? At this time, do I have a motion for adjournment of meeting number 1?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We will be taking a 5-minute recess.
Presentation. I've seen a few in the paper.
Please, everybody, find their seats so we can continue.
We're here. Let's roll it.
Okay, welcome to the combined Violin Board of Education meeting, March 11th, 2:20, well after 6 p.m. meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Costa.
Here.
Mrs. Codispati.
Present.
Mr. Fiocchi. Here. Mr. Holmes.
Still here.
Mr. Sobrana.
Present.
Mr. Silva.
Here.
Ms. Spinelli. Here. Mr. Ulrich.
Present.
Mr. English.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. In compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law, commonly referred to as the Sunshine Law, the Violin Board of Education has caused notice and posting of this meeting to be sent to the following: announcing time and place thereof, agenda, etc. The Daily Journal, SNJ Today, the Press of Atlantic City, Nuestra Comunidad, Visto Bueno, the Clerk for the City of Violin, and the Administrative Office Public Bulletin Board. We already did our flag salute this evening, and thank you to our DePalito Elementary School students. Mr. Merkley, do we have a resolution for executive session this evening?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Special presentations tonight. Dr. Gruccio.
Okay, first I would like to call forward Mr. Pravesh Patel, our Food Service Director, and he will be recognizing our 5-star recipients tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Guccio. Good evening, everyone. As you know, hundreds of restaurant establishments are inspected every year by the Violin Health Department. Only a handful are nominated for the 5-star award. In order to be nominated for the 5-star award, the senior cook must go above and beyond the minimum code requirements. It is my pleasure this year for 2019's recipients that I present to you the 5-star award winners and their schools. First up, we have Bernadette Jester from Petway Elementary School. We have Michelle Pagan. We have Michelle Pagan from Sabatier and Delago School. We have Betty Winkler from Cunningham School. We have Lisa Groves from Johnstone AMSA. Michelle DiVincenzo from Veteran Memorial School. Rosaria Rodriguez from Meny's Elementary School. And finally, Deborah Calvanero from Barcy Elementary School. Unfortunately, she could not make it tonight. These are your 5-star awards recipients and schools.
Is that here? Ed, shouldn't you get in there?
Ed, why don't you come in and join the picture?
Camera shy.
Thank you for the great job you do for our students. Next, I'd like to call forward Mrs. Deborah McLean. She is a teacher at Winslow School, and Mrs. Renee Braxton, the principal of Winslow School. We had our students enter a contest through the county clerk's office regarding Women's Voter Centennial, and we had some winners from Winslow, and we'd like to recognize them this evening. Come on up, Ms. Braxton.
All right, I just want to congratulate our students. A group of my students worked on some writing essays for the county on the 19th Amendment and women's voters' rights, with just some brief mini lessons from me, as well as some Newsella and different activities put into Google Classroom. The students on their own completed their essays, and then I submitted them. We were fortunate to have some winners. 2 of them are here tonight. Aiden Tharp could not make it, but tonight we have Ryan Grover and Elizabeth Roberts, and they both submitted essays. Two were the entry winners.
Congratulations. We're very proud of you. Next, we have Mrs. Luzmila Badillo Qualdrone from Violin High School, and she will be honoring winners of our Cumberland County College Science Fair.
Good evening. Thank you so much for this time. It's my pleasure to call the following students that participate at the Cumberland Science Fair. They present or enter different projects in different categories. So I have Emily Carrasco in physics. Emily, you are here, please. We have Ninoshka Baez Colon. In botany, we have Idarlene Leon, environmental. We have Sheila Cruz Marisan, in botany too. We have Lisbeth Ortega. Health and medicine. Thank you. Be careful. We have Daniela Castro Quintino, health and medicine. Adierin Delgado Rodriguez, engineering. Yulisa Trujillo Rodriguez. Yulisa, chemistry or health? Environmental. Environmental. Yasmalis Lopez Ruyan, engineering. These are the students that we are so proud of you guys, bilingual students at Violin High School. And this is the first time in 4 or 5 years that I'm doing these projects with them, that they have so many prizes. And we got the first place as a teacher with most projects that compete in that tremendous event. So thank you so much for all your support.
Dr. Negrin, why don't you come up for the picture? Dr. Negrin, come on up for the picture. Thank you. That's the end of the presentations.
Thank you, Dr. Gruccio, and congratulations, everyone. Do I have any questions or comments on our HIB report this evening? All right, seeing none. Do I have a motion for the approval of minutes for February 5th, 2020 combined meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Costa.
Abstain.
Mrs. Cataspati.
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi. Yes. Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana.
Abstain?
Mr. Silva.
Abstain.
Ms. Spinelli. Yes. Mr. Ulrich.
Yes.
Mr. English.
Yes.
They pass.
Thank you. Do we have any committee reports this evening by my fellow board members?
I have a facilities update.
Ms. Spinelli, Facilities Director. Or, sorry, Facilities Chair.
Sorry, Paul.
Hey, Paul, I just gave her a raise. She's the new director.
So myself, Scott, Kim, Paul, Dr. Gruccio met about facilities. As you saw on the budget, we went over all the things we're going to be transferring over to LED lights that are cost effective. The high school is going to get some bathroom renovations done. We talked a lot about the new bus yard. We talked about getting a new snow scraper for the tops of the buses. Other than that, that's about all. Everything is listed. It'll be online tomorrow.
Thank you, Ms. Spinelli. Do we have any other committee reports?
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'll have a report on the Ad hoc Communications Committee at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Transportation Committee did meet, and the content was outlined in the budget presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Moving right along. We good?
We're good. We did all the policies.
Okay.
The Policy and Personnel Committee met Dr. Rossi, Dr. Sneathen, Dr. Gruccio, myself, Mr. English, Ms. Cataspati, and Ms. Spinelli. We covered some district implementation of policies that will be on the agenda and future agendas. Some new, one was an animal service dog in the schools for therapy dogs. Nothing earth-shattering. We discussed some realignment of some district personnel along with potential changes of district classifications of some employees. They should be up on the website when Joe sends them to Gia to put up.
Thank you.
And there was a curriculum and instruction meeting. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go, but Mr. English, you were present.
Yes.
So if you could fill in the rest of the board
Mr.
members.
Fry, if you want to go ahead and just take that, because I don't have that in front of me at this point. Please. Okay. Absolutely. Do we have any other committee reports this evening? That's it. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't have that in front of me either.
So we talked about the two grants, a virtual paleo grant where the students have opportunity to virtually engage in some paleontology with Villanova University. We talked about the a German-American partnership grant for the trip to Germany that may be not going now. We did talk about the RTI program and the MTSS program as well in detail. We talked about the high school course selection guide, the agriculture program update. We talked about the construction trades program, all of which are in process, as well as the Big Brother, Big Sisters Mentor 2.0 update. And we also talked about an opportunity from Grand Canyon University and what they offer us from the last board meeting, and we discussed that opportunity as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. And I believe that's all for this evening. Do we have any comments by our board solicitor this evening?
None.
None? Thank you. Do we have any public comment on agenda items only this evening?
I did not receive any yellow slips.
Okay, thank you. At this time, motion and resolutions by our Superintendent, Dr. Gruccio.
Thank you. I would like to recommend discussion of the following: retirements, resignations, terminations, leaves of absence, employment, transfers, substitutes, and extracurricular activities.
Any questions or comments?
I would like to recommend approval of 1.1.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta.
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti.
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana.
Yes, but I abstain on number 6 on replacement hires.
Noted. Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli.
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich.
Yes on everything. I abstain on transportation promotions.
Noted. Mr. English.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
I would like to recommend discussion of trips and district travel.
Any questions or comments?
I would like to, I'm sorry.
Dr. Gruccio, just a quick question. Concerning our trips and travel, I know with the coronavirus, there's some things on here that are scheduled for various trips up north and things like that. So as the board goes to approve these trips might be approved tonight by the board, but it's always subject to change. Is that correct?
Correct. We met today at length with the health department and the county superintendents, and we were told at today's meeting that other than international trips, we should feel comfortable allowing our trips and our activities and events to continue. So until that changes, that's the path we're taking.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay, I'd like to recommend discussion regarding the 2020-21 school calendar for pupil attendance as provided and on file with the board secretary.
Any questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the full-time principal waiver request for Mrs. Suzette DeMarchi.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the first reading of the following policies and regulations for discussion. Policy 5111, eligibility of residents and non-resident students. Policy 8660, transportation by private vehicle. Regulation 5600, students' discipline code of conduct. And the draft of a new regulation 5537.1, therapy/emotional support dogs in the schools.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend approval of items 2.1 through, oh, I apologize, I got another one down here. I'd like to recommend discussion regarding authorizing the board secretary to enter into an affiliation agreement for the 1920 school year for the placement of students for field internships, student teaching, practicum, and observations with Rutgers University for the biomedical and health sciences, occupational therapy, and occupational therapy assistant programs.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend discussion regarding submission to the Executive County Superintendent, the 2018-19 New Jersey Quality Single Accountability Continuum, which is New Jersey CUSAC, and the Chief School Administrator's Statement of Assurance attesting to the accuracy of the responses in the report to the best of our knowledge.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend approval of items 2.1 through 2.6.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta.
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti.
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
No to 2.1, yes to all the others.
Noted. Mr. Sobrana.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli.
No to 2.1 and yes to all the others.
Noted. Mr. Ulrich.
No to 2.1, yes to the others.
Noted. Mr. English.
No to 2.1, yes to all the others.
They all pass.
Thank you.
I'd like to recommend discussion of budgetary transfers for the general, school-based, and ECPA budgets for January 2020.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend discussion of the Board Secretary and Treasurer's reports for January 2020.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend discussion regarding the placement of special education students.
Questions or comments?
I recommend discussion regarding submission of the following grant applications: the 2020 Field and Virtual Paleo Grant, the German-American Partnership Grant, and the NJEA Frederick L. Hip Grant.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend discussion regarding the submission of the fiscal year 20 Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Improvement Amendment for July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. Federal funds are in the amount of $100,591.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend discussion regarding the submission and acceptance of the following grants as provided and on file with the Board Secretary: the fiscal year 2019 NSLP Equipment Assistance Grant and the Whole Kids Foundation Garden Grant.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the following change in signers for the Edward Johnstone School Student Activity Fund. We would be removing Helen Haley, Jeff Du Bois, and Lisbeth Rosa, and we would be adding Jean Merkley, Suzette DeMarchi, Jacqueline Roman Alvarez, and Vilmarie Sass.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the tuition contract between the City of Vineland Board of Ed and Hamilton Public Schools for one student in the amount of $7,641 for January 16, 2020 to June 30, 2020.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend discussion regarding the tuition contract between the City of Vineland Board of Education and Salem City School District for one student in the amount of $7,210.84 for January 21, 2020 to June 30, 2020.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the tuition contract between the City of Vineland Board of Education and Salem City School District for one student in the total amount of $7,488.18 for January 21st to June 30th, 2020.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the 2019-20 itinerant shared services agreement between Cape May County Special Services School District and Vineland Public School District Board of Ed for July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the lease bond agreement by and between the Cumberland County Improvement Authority and the City of Vineland Board of Education, pending solicitor review and approval.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the project development and management agreement by and between the Cumberland County Improvement Authority and the City of Vineland Board of Ed, pending solicitor review and approval.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the awarding of the following contract: asphalt paving services for the term July 1, 2020 to June 30th, 2021, with the option to renew 2 one-year terms or 1 two-year term with a maximum of 3 years. Asphalt Paving Corporation, Malaga, New Jersey. The total contract amount is $133,925.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the athletic field maintenance, herbicide, pesticide, and irrigation bid for the term of July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021, with the option to renew 2 one-year terms or 1 two-year term for a maximum of a 3-year term. It is TLC Landscape Company, and the total amount is $53,550.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding awarding the following contract for painting services for the term of July 1, 2020 to June 30th, 2021, with the option to renew 2 one-year terms or 1 two-year term with a maximum of 3 years. Contractor is Capri Construction, and the total amount is $58,860.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding awarding the following contract for fuel services for the term July 1, 2020 to June 30th, 2021, with the option to renew 2 one-year terms or 1 two-year term with a maximum of 3 years. Contractor is Riggins Incorporated. The total lump sum constant factor is $34,300.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding a service agreement between the City of Vineland Board of Ed and Educational-Based Services for therapist services at a rate of $79 to $85 per hour for speech-language pathologists for January 28, 2020 through June 30th, 2020.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding a service agreement between the City of Violin Board of Ed and Educational-Based Services for therapist services at a rate of $79 to $85 per hour for speech-language pathologists, or did I just read this?
No.
Oh, another one, okay. So after a while, I get confused. For 2021 school year.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the sale of the bus lists, which are on file with the board secretary, to be auctioned on GovDeals.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the acceptance of the following 2 vehicles donated by Subaru in accordance with Board Policy 7230.1, acquisition and use of donated vehicles. Subaru is donating a 2018 Legacy and a 2018 Outback for us to utilize in our program at the high school.
Questions or comments? Just a quick comment. Definitely thank you for Subaru, because that's that career readiness stuff that we love to talk about. Good stuff. Thank you.
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the 2019-20 Joint Transportation Agreement between High Point Regional High School of Sussex County and the City of Violin Board of Education in the amount of $9,845.77.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend discussion regarding the following Cumberland County Regional Cooperative Transportation Initiatives: the 2019-20 Transportation Quoted Contracts, Transportation Addenda, and Pupil Transportation.
Questions or comments?
I would like to recommend approval of items 4.1 through 4.23.
Take a deep breath there. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta,
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti,
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi,
Yes, but I will be abstaining from 4.12, 4.13, and 4.14.
noted. Mr. Holmes, Mr. Sobrana,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli, Mr. Ulrich,
Yes.
Mr. English.
Yes.
They pass.
Thank you, Mr. Merkley, and thank you, Dr. Gruccio. At this time, we have no proposed items to review. Do I have a motion for the approval of bills
So
that
moved.
incurred
So
Do-
moved.
during January 2020?
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta,
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti,
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli, Mr. Ulrich,
Yes.
Mr. English.
Yes.
It passes.
Thank you. At this time, emergent or items. Dr. Gruccio pretty much hit the nail on the head when she was discussing the coronavirus. They have been working round the clock diligently. Mr. Fry, the staff, trying to see exactly where we're going, and it's still a work in progress, as she explained, but we are in constant contact with the state, with the county, and I believe what's going to happen in the end is you're going to see things are always subject to change. So what you hear us say today, a lot of people wanted some type of a PowerPoint or something, but we really don't have anything in concrete because it is changing daily. So I would just ask everyone to continue to listen for the all calls, check our websites and different social media, and hopefully this virus will be something that they get under control and we can move forward. At this time, opportunity for the public to address the board on any items. Please come up. You have 5 minutes and state your name. I think you know the drill.
Hi, board members. Tara Meyerson. I'm a Violin resident and also a first grade teacher at Violin Public Schools. So I appreciate what Mr. English said on behalf of the board earlier, that the basic skills issue hasn't been forgotten. And that you're asking good questions about options. So I appreciate that. But as you're looking for money here and there, just like to reiterate to the board the reality of what's going on currently and why basic skills is really an issue that should be addressed, and it's should be a priority. As I was looking around the room earlier, I was like wishing I had such an audience like there was before for basic skills students, but unfortunately it's the way it is. So last year when we were amidst the budget crisis of $14 million shortfall, I stood up here urging the Board of Education to consider reinstating basic skills teachers in order to properly service our struggling students in the Violin schools. It's no secret this wish was not granted. It didn't happen. Instructional support staff were cut, and in many buildings, basic skills teachers went from 8 in a building to 2. And myself being in the trenches, so to speak, I'm seeing the repercussions of that decision. I could stand up here and give you examples about how we're depriving students who need it the most and how we're not giving them the best chance to be successful. But for now, I'd rather provide you with the benefits of finding funding to increase basic skills or instructional support staff to our classrooms just to ensure a more fair education for all of our students. So if we had instructional support teachers in the classroom, and I call them that, basic skills, instructional support, I feel like it's just kind of the same thing, we'd be able to have more small group instruction to increase focus and engagement of struggling students who need it the most. We'd be able to have more individualized instruction. The students would have more support in an already too rigorous curriculum that they already flounder in. We'd be able to reinforce the basic concepts and skills that students need. We'd be able to analyze more data and perform detailed diagnostic assessments, and we could address these better. Teachers could also collaborate to enhance learning environment with an instructional support teacher. We could also accelerate the learning of students and even effectively address our LEAP student population. And we'd take some of the pressure off of classroom teachers' shoulders because their workload is overwhelming and ever increasing. So doesn't that all sound great? If we had that, it'd be awesome. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, aren't you doing that already in your classroom, all of that? Yeah, I am. In fact, I'm breaking my back to do it, to be honest, and we all are, all the teachers. We are. We're doing our best to educate students, but we're also grappling with the social and emotional needs of our students as well. Class sizes are huge on top of this. My first grade class has 23 students, and it's ever growing. And it's just one person in the classroom. Contrary to what some may believe, just putting our students on a computer to learn a skill is not the answer either. Students need human interaction. They need a word of encouragement, a pat on the back, a relationship, a smile, not a screen. So it's scary how many people think a computer program is the answer. It's not. It's not going to effectively take the place of a teacher. So in order to give our students the best chance for success, we're asking, and on behalf of quite a few teachers that I speak to, and that I know, I wish more would come up here and talk about it, but we are asking for help. We're asking for more support in the form of a basic skills teacher or an instructional support teacher in our classrooms. So I have 23 students in my first grade class, and 13 of them came in reading well below grade level. 13. So effectively reaching all these students is very difficult with no assistance or supplemental instruction that can be given to them. And they're struggling, and it really breaks my heart. I'm doing the best I can. I'm staying late. I'm coming in early. But the needs of our students is becoming so diverse, and we teachers, we really need some help. So conferences this year, I had a lot of really great conversations with parents. I was meeting some of the parents, and they had some disappointed looks on their faces and discouraged faces because their students were not getting good grades. They were having a difficult time with our curriculum. And then they asked me, well, what are you doing for my child? And so I explained everything I'm doing, and they're like, well, is there anything else? I said, there's a teacher for half an hour in here. And they look at me like, oh. Like they're not satisfied. They're not satisfied with that. So let's just try and, if you can, make it imperative to really think about this issue and add support for teachers and students into the classroom, especially elementary. And let's put the focus on our struggling students like we do with our high-achieving students. It's just, sorry. I think it's just as important as security.
Ms. Myerson, you're at the 5 minutes. If you can finish your thought, please.
Yep, I will. And just in the budget, I saw critical curricular resources. Well, basic skills is critical. That should be in there. Help for struggling students is critical. So let's get back to this. And again, I appreciate, Mr. English, for your push for funding with basic skills. And I'd really be interested, Dr. Gruccio, in hearing about this transitional first and second grade. I would love to really hear about that because I don't know much about that. And if that's something that you're thinking, that's awesome. And I can tell, I hope it would be beneficial for our students. So thank you for listening, and I hope we can vote for a budget that helps all students. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else this evening? Okay, thank you. Do we have any old or new business from board members? To the left? Okay, at this time, I'm going to start to my left with Ms. Codispoti for board member remarks.
I'd like to congratulate all of our students and staff that were being recognized for a job well done tonight. And although some of the issues that were discussed, some people liked, some people didn't, we had a packed house. And I don't think I've seen a packed house in several years. So please keep that up, because that's the only way we're going to know what issues are on your mind. And that's about everything. We might cringe, we might, but we need to hear how you feel. We might not be able to agree or disagree, but I appreciate you coming out here, all of you that spoke, to give us your thoughts and ideas and opinions, because at some point we're going to have to remember that, because I did take notes, so I can go back and reference them when we're discussing all of these issues in our committees. So thank you, everyone. Have a great night, a great week, and have a blessed day.
Thank you, Ms. Codispoti. Mr. Sobrano.
I also want to echo Mrs. Codispoti's thoughts on the subject. It might not look like any fun to sit up here when everyone's speaking passionately about something, but we do appreciate that, because that's the only way that we can find out what people are really thinking out there. So please keep that up. And also thank you to all our students. It's always nice to be able to acknowledge the efforts of our kids, and it's great to be back home again. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sobrano. Mr. Silva.
I also would like to acknowledge all the students who were recognized today and the staff members. Thank you guys for sharing your concerns with us, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. Mr. Fiocchi.
Hey, I just echo everybody's sentiments. I appreciate everybody taking their time out of their night, giving us feedback. That's critical information that we need to do our jobs. So thank you again.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes, thank you to Mr. Merkley and your team for a well-thought-out budget presentation and all the time that you took to put into it. Also, thank you to all of you that came out and expressed your concerns on various issues. One of them that I believe I'll be looking more into depth with the curriculum committee. I'll just say amen. Okay. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Ms. Acosta.
I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all the students that participated in tonight's meeting, as well as to congratulate the students that were recognized at the science fair. I think it's wonderful. I'd like to thank the parents that came out tonight to voice your opinions on the very many issues and concerns that you have with respect to the education your children are receiving. I'm a firm believer that, we don't raise our children by ourselves. It does take a village to raise our children. So we are all in this together, and we all need to work together. I hear the comments being said. I am a firm believer that we need to increase our basic skills teacher. I'm very concerned about making sure that our children, that those children that really need the additional support, receive that additional support. I've been an advocate for children with special needs, well, for all children, but I do believe that not one child should be sitting there having their self-esteem go down because they're having difficulty with some very, very basic skills that they need to continue to grow as students. So we need to make sure not only that our children that are in kindergarten, first and second, but as they progress to third and fourth, when it becomes even more critical that these children are at grade level. And that's something that I know that we're always talking about. And with respect to security, I'd like to thank our wonderful staff of security guards that are in our schools day in and day out. I know that the issue of armed security guards is a controversial one. However, I do support armed security guards, but I also would say that we have to take all of the needs of our district into consideration when we're talking about the budget. And we will, this is not, we approved a number, but we didn't approve how all that money was going to be spent. You know, obviously we have great needs, but I am looking forward to your continued participation as we continue to finalize this budget. And I thank you again for being here. Thank you for caring for your children and for participating in their education.
Thank you, Ms. Acosta. Ms. Spinelli.
Again, I want to thank everyone for coming, and I want to thank all the schools that invited me out to the Read Across America event that happened last week. It was a blast. I made so many new little friends, and I really look forward to that next year. And then when it comes to why I voted down the tax increase, I believe that I should be a woman of my word. And when I ran for school board 3 years ago, I said I was not going to increase the taxes. So as much as the money is needed, I just feel it would be unfair for me to take back what I said I was going to do.
Thank you for your honesty, Ms. Spinelli. Mr. Ulrich.
Okay, first I'd like to thank everybody that came out. I agree with what Ms. Cataspati stated in that we won't always agree or disagree, but what we always should do is respect the opinions of the people that take their time to come out and express them. Some things are governed by regulations, but sometimes there's some gray in those regulations. But I also take notes, and Vicki, Jeff, Luz, James, Melissa, Tracy, Marilyn, Tara, thank you. Thank you for bringing forward important issues that are important to you. And I always frame my thought process and my votes on what's best for our school district, and I will continue to do that. On the issue of armed security, the only thing I would like to get out to the public is, one, the state does give us a line item to pursue security measures that the state deems that are in budgetary constraints for a district of our size. So they just don't come up with a number. They come up with a number of what they think security may need. And I say may need. So we're at, you know, a $3.2 million appropriation, though we're not spending that. But it is going to be spent on securing our facilities, because no matter where you start, you cannot have an educational environment where students or staff feel unsafe. And I think that I always looked at that. I've always spoke to that issue. I'm very consistent with that issue. And I think that the points brought up, this is not hiring police officers to come into the schools and militarize the schools. I am not my law enforcement background was not in that method, nor do I even support it. I think that there's a confusion out there that we're going to militarize schools and bring police officers in, and that's simply not our goal. And our goal is to actually increase and enhance security. You'll see changes coming, you know, throughout the end of the school year, different uniforms, just a different attitude. We have a cooperation of our security staff. You know, we tried to bring them into the fold. I think Mr. Merkley's plan with transportation, which I've supported as a plan that is a plan that will keep our employees employed, expand our busing responsibilities, because we were on the path to do away with busing. Had we continued that path, and we would be held to whatever the bid was from the prevailing bus company, which is Shepherd, who I will never vote yes again for any contract that comes forward to this board while we transition. What they've done to the district and drop bids and rebid at a higher price is unconscionable, and I would rather make the investment in our employees, and Mr. Merkley is doing that, and in the long term, we're actually going to have a better service under the control of the Violin Board of Education, and I think that pathway is a pathway to success, because we not only have to worry about the educational environment, but we have a lot of kids to transport, to feed, to make sure that they can get educated. And if we can't get them or feed them, how do we educate them, right? So, you know, there's a lot of moving parts in this $200 million budget. So I just want to thank Mr. Merkley and his staff and the fellow board members on the committees. They really have been doing the job. They've been meeting. There's been good conversation. Is that conversation finished or done? No. I mean, when I hear Tara come up and talk about, you know, basic skills teachers and servicing a portion of our school district that needs help, my heart goes out. I mean, because it's true. Everything she said is true. The time, the effort, it's all true. So we have to come to a balance, and the only way we can do that is through cooperation and coming up with some better ideas and looking across the spectrum. But I just wanted to thank everybody for their input, and the school year with this coronavirus thing, I voted no on that travel policy because I believe that we shouldn't be traveling. North Jersey is developing hotspots. New York City has some of the most cases starting to develop of the coronavirus in a community, and that's going to come quick. We have South Jersey residents that have been confirmed. So I don't think right now that we should be traveling, that we should put the brakes on until we have a total big picture of what's going on, and that is why I voted no. I don't want to punish any kids or not have them experience the trip of their life to Germany or Italy or wherever they want to go. But in my mind, coming from a public safety standpoint, I'm concerned, and I don't want to put our staff members at risk or our students. It doesn't appear to be students that's targeting young people, but in our staff, it is targeting those populations that may have some underlying health issues. We have 2,000 employees. We transport 10,000 kids a day to make sure those buses are cleaned and that our schools being taken care of. So that's why I voted no on that, and I just want to proceed with caution. And I know we can change it any time, but I just don't feel safe with any travel right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ulrich. Dr. Guccio.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the students that were recognized this evening, and I'd like to thank them and their parents for their patience. I know it took us a long time to get to the recognition, but I thank you and congratulations. I also want to thank those who came out to speak. As it's been said many times up here, we're always happy to hear your input. But just a couple of things that I want you to understand. It's not that we don't want basic skills teachers. It's not that we want to have a 4% tax increase. It's not that we do or don't want to implement a certain curriculum. Many of these things are mandated. The state is mandating that we do a certain curriculum. The state is mandating that we have a 4% tax increase. After our mid-year budget review, we receive a letter with guidelines in it, and we are told that we must have a 4% tax increase. So just please try to understand, we hear you, we appreciate what you're saying, but some of these things are out of our control. But we appreciate you being here, we appreciate knowing your feelings and listening to you. And lastly, the coronavirus, we have been literally spending every minute of our day at meeting after meeting dealing with the situation. We're putting a plan together. I thank our principals for their patience. We got a field trip form translated, and that went out. We have a letter for parents. We did an all-call. But we decided today as superintendents that we would follow the direction of the health department and we would try to be unified in whatever we did. So that's why we have canceled international trips, but we were told today that we should not cancel large events or field trips to anywhere in the United States at this point in time, and so that's why we made the decision we made. We did put out a field trip a permission slip that explains about the virus on the permission slip, and a parent can opt out from sending their child. That is up to them. But we're just trying to be unified in what we do throughout the county. We were told today that there is not one confirmed case in the county, and we continue to meet and continue to revise our plans that were submitted to the county so that we are prepared if and when we should have to shut down schools. We all hope that it doesn't come to that, but please know we're working really hard to do what's right for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gruccio. It was a unique night up here tonight because I believe each board member spoke. I love to see that. That's good. It shows we have a heartbeat up here, which is good, and you guys care. You do a great job. This evening, we had I take pride in trying to control our meetings, and tonight we had a combined type meeting where we started with the budget. We were supposed to go out of the budget meeting, come into our second meeting, and when you open the floor for public comment, first I want to thank the students for being extremely patient and well-behaved, and for their presentations they gave this evening, also for the awards that they received, that they earned. When we had the discussion we had earlier tonight, with any quality discussion, I think you've heard me say it time and time before, there will be a solution. The problem is there's always going to be one side that's not happy with the answer where the other side is going to be extremely happy. Sometimes I try to find that compromise and balance in between so we can make it work for everyone. The state handcuffs with a lot of things, from funding to mandates to Mr. Martine's favorite, unfunded mandates. So when I see the numbers that were here tonight, that's a positive because it shows we do have a pulse here in Violin. And although we are put here by the taxpayers, there's 9 of us. That's 9 voices. But can you imagine how another 80 voices would help? You know, again, I believe there is no I in team, and divide and conquer by being a great team with that same vision. So when I see the people come out tonight, that tells me I need to do my homework a little bit more. We made it pretty clear. Mr. Fry and Ms. Acosta, she chairs the curriculum. It seems like Mr. Holmes is on board for some serious discussion. So I look forward to getting educated a little bit more on this because, again, we don't know as board members until that one voice comes up. But then the power by 2 and 3, we do understand. So don't leave this meeting tonight thinking the decision's already made and things like that, because, again, things can change like that. Something I always forget to do, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the people that sit right here in front of me. Dr. Sneathen, Mr. Fry, Dr. Rossi, Mr. Mustarell, Ms. Godlewski, Mr. Salerno, Mr. Farinaccio, Mr. Provenzano, Mr. Hall, and Ms. Ferrari. When we go through these budget seasons, we directly attack each one of you in several ways. And, you know, I don't thank each of you enough because we do demand a lot, as well as your employees under you, your departments. The job you do when we talk $200 million budgets, $14 million shortfall, now we kicked this $8 million one in the butt, hopefully. We appreciate all you do, along with Dr. Gruccio, Mr. Merkley. It is truly a team effort. I know you don't like everything I say, but it is never meant in a cruel or malicious way. It is really what is best for our students, our staff members, and our taxpayers. I only sit in this seat as the board president. I don't have any more power than any other board member. When I hear people thank me, as you did tonight, for about basic skills, again, I speak on behalf of a great team that I'm surrounded with. The conversations we have in the back room, we couldn't put them on the television, trust me. It's heated discussion, and we all have our different opinions, but at the end of the day, it is a puzzle that you have to insert these pieces, and once you have a 1,000-piece puzzle and it's complete, there's no room for that other piece. I don't want to discourage people by coming to that microphone because, again, you said it, you wish more teachers would come. I think the days of the retaliation and that stuff that I've heard over the years, I don't really believe that that is present in today's central administration board or anything like that. I encourage more people to come because, again, as each board member says, we're only as good as the information we receive, as well as central administration. They're going to roll it out, but if everyone shakes their head yes, hey, throw an idea every now and then, something they might have missed. So again, I encourage that discussion. As far as busing and security goes, one thing, when I had left the board back in 2016, I thought that was a turnkey operation for the next board that January to come in and run with it. The funding was there, everything was there, but it hit a wall for some reason. And you never should put a price on student and staff member safety, because that is the one area that directly affects 100% of what we have here. Not a 1% that's here, not a 10% that's here, but 100%. And I don't know how any board member, when we run with the ability of saying we are going to keep our buildings as secure and safe as possible. I don't know any board member up here that could answer today, yesterday, that our buildings are as safe as they possibly can be with the money that's allocated to us from the state. It's not a knock on our current security system or the people in it. It is just another layer of protection. So I don't have that parent, God forbid, someday come to me and ask me, Mr. English, did you do all that was possible to keep my child safe under the current allocated money? With this plan, we're pretty well close to it. Just like busing. These are things that we put in place years ago through discussion and finally are coming to fruition through hard work of board members and central administration office and staff members to make good things happen. The last thing I'd like to talk about is this basic skills thing, because just like the passion we have for the security that is getting a check mark by it, just like the busing that you see is getting a check mark by it, the title might not be basic skills teacher, but some type of remedy. I'm relentless, and you know that. I have some ideas. I'm sure they won't be ideas that are popular, but they are ideas that will increase some type of instruction in them areas. And please, central administration is working on this. Don't feel like you're the wicked stepchild that got kicked out. No, trust me. Good things are going to happen there. It's just a matter of getting balanced again and identifying what's needed. We don't need that basic skills teacher to be put back in place but cover the next class because they got pulled out, because they went right back to where we started from. It was broke. So how do you fix it? You got to study it and make it better, not the trial and error and say, oh, we missed it. With that being said, I just thank my fellow board members tonight for doing what good board members do. You care, it's relentless, and the honesty that comes forward from each of you, I definitely appreciate it. With that being said, that's all I have. I guess it's time for a motion for that adjournment this evening.
moved.
All in favor? Thank you, and have a good night.
7:40. Not
Get
one
me a
breath.
buzzer.